So the sprint events, as part of this discussion, we will discuss about the Scrum events, and we will talk about the sprint. So the sprint is the container for the other events within a duration of no more than a month. So your sprint overall duration can be as small as 2 weeks, can be as big as 1 month. So the events within the sprints, they are time boxed in order to establish a regular routine with a regular cadence, as this enables the greater productivity within the sprint. So this also supports agile premise of working at a sustainable pace. So we should be able to finish everything within the timeline which is agreed upon. So there has to be no overtime for working on any of the sprint backlog items. So your events basically enables predictability by ensuring the inspection and ensuring the adaptation of progress towards the product goals. So we should ensure that every item in the product backlog or every item in the sprint backlog are worked upon. So the ensuring the events are able to be worked upon on a regular basis, that the key important element. So your events enable the predictability by ensuring inspection and the adaptation of progress towards the product goal is also ensured. So skipping any uh, sprint event means a loss of opportunity for inspection and adaptation, and any new sprint begins immediately after the conclusion of the previous sprint. So there are no changes during a sprint that would endanger the sprint goal. So as we also say, quality is a part and parcel of a definition of done, so it cannot be sacrificed in order to complete a product backlog item during the sprint. So the scope can be clarified, can be renegotiated with the product owner, but then we need to ensure that quality or the definition of done should always be followed. So now let's talk specifically about the sprint planning. So the sprint planning is one of the event and ceremony of the Scrum. The time allocated for the sprint planning is equal to 2 hours for each week in the sprint's duration. So that means if you have, say, 4 weeks of sprint, then the overall duration of sprint planning meeting can be of 8 hours. If it is 3 week sprint, then it can be 6 hours. So as per the 2020 Scrum Guide, it has introduced an additional topic for the sprint planning. So we should think about, we should think and discuss three main items as part of the sprint planning. So first important question is, why is this sprint valuable? So we should always ask this question as part of this sprint planning meeting. So the product owner proposes how the product's values and utility could be increased as part of the sprint. So that's the first question, as we call, why is this sprint valuable? So as a part of the planning meeting, it should be discussed, and product owner should help answer this question. So the next question which should be discussed and asked as part of this is, what can be done during this sprint? So developers and the product owner should discuss about the product backlog items. They should define if any of the items needs to be done based on the overall sprint backlog item. And if a Scrum Master needs to do any kind of coaching, he should be ready to do that. So that's the second question, what can be done during the sprint? The third question is, how will the chosen work get done? So that's the third question which we should talk and discuss as part of the sprint planning meeting. So this topic, as we say, has to be addressed by the developers and often should involve decomposing the product backlog items into a smaller work items or tasks of not more than a day or uh, less. So your product owner may even leave some of the meeting for the final aspects of planning, since this is solely the domain of the developers. So as a part of the third question, how will the chosen work will get this question has to be addressed solely by the development team, because they are the one who are responsible for carrying out these tasks in a most efficient and effective manner. So having answered these three questions, the entire team basically collaborates to define the overall sprint goal. So defining the sprint goal is always a responsibility of a overall sprint team. So the product owner should ensure the sprint goals has been finalized before the meeting ends, as a discussion of the most important product backlog items should be looked upon. So how you are going to map the product goal should be looked upon based on the product backlog items. So, as a part of the whole discussion, while finalizing the sprint goal, other people are also invited for providing any sort of advice. But then it is a responsibility of the uh, Scrum team, of the sprint team, to finalize the sprint goal. So the next item which we will discuss is about the sprint execution. So this is not a formal Scrum event as we call it. So sprint planning is one of the formal event, but then sprint execution is not a formal Scrum event. It begins immediately after the sprint planning begins, and it ends when the sprint review starts. So it is basically accounting for the majority of the sprint's duration, and this is the part of the sprint where the developers will self-manage the work to turn the selected product backlog item into one or more increments of value. So it's all about embracing and demonstrating the 5 values of Scrum in the overall behavior and their mindset, uh, uh, so that your development team and the Scrum masters and product owner be able to work in a more effective manner.